Well, let's imagine that you've been able to produce a detailed landscape plan for a client. You've been to the site, you've measured it up. We're using millimetres here as our base unit, so we're working in the metric system, and so we have a little mud map there with some measurements on it, and from that mud map we can create a CAD version of it. And we might start, the site is 6641 in width, so we might start by drawing a line. We can just click anywhere we like, somewhere up the top, and I've got in the so-called status line here, I've got polar on. That forces the line that I'm about to draw such that it's horizontal, and we read from our mud map 6641 and hit enter. That sets the line in, and then we go down in this direction 20391 20391 and hit enter, and I'll right click and exit from there. So we have two boundaries of the site drawn. We could repeat that one if we wanted. Repeat line, I'm clicking with the right mouse button, and then with the left mouse button I'm asked for the first point, and we come over to what's called the object snap toolbar, click here, and then again type in there 20391 20391 and hit enter. That gives us the other side. We could then right click and repeat the line command, and this time we could simply draw from the end of the long line on the left to the long line on the right, and there we have a rectangle which denotes the site. We could have used the rectangle command to do that, and it would have been quicker, but it requires a little bit of understanding of the use of what are called polar coordinates. So let me illustrate. I could say draw a rectangle, 2 points. I could click in here as a start and then come up there. I want to go across 6641, so I go use the @ sign. That starts these, not polar coordinates, relative coordinates, 6641, and then a comma in the, that's the X direction, and in the Y we want 2391 2391 and hit enter, and there's the same result. It's just drawn as a single entity, but we'll get rid of that for the moment because when you're starting out it's a little tricky, even though it's quicker. So we have our base information, and we could just say draw a line now from this point here down in that direction. It can be an arbitrary direction, and another line to get that area there, and that will represent the building. Well, the next step might be to put in some windows, as you see here, and to do that we go library and details and architectural, and we can just pick up a window, in this case say 2410 wide, and insert it into the drawing like so. So in goes the window, and then I've put two of them in, so the windows are now in. Following that, if we look at the drawing, we're specifying some pavers, 700mm square pavers, so we'll draw one in and then copy it and put the pavers in a reasonable spot. So for that, it's draw. I'm going to use that rectangle tool, and we'll just arbitrarily pick down at the corner here, and let me zoom in, and we'll use this at symbology, so at 700, it's a 700 square paver, so we hit it and in it goes. And what I'm going to do is turn it into what's called a block or a repeating unit. So I select it, right click and create a block, and we'll call it, give it a meaningful name, 700 mm square paver. And for its pick point or its base point, I'm going to pick down the bottom left like so. And the reason there is that we can come over here you've been on site and you think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will work quite well across there, so we select it and copy it, and because Polar's on, I can simply click and click and click and click. But there are some really cool tools that help you lay this out. I'll right click and go to drafting settings, polar tracking, and I'll say enable a distance step of 700, and in that case we'll say OK. Now let me zoom in. When I select it and pick copy and click on the base point there, can you see I can just find the next spot quickly and easily. So 2, 4, that gives us our 6, and we're right, we need to move it maybe a little bit to the right. Just say we wanted to center that, we could have a little guide. If we wanted to, we could draw what's called a construction line or a ray, either would work. We'll pick ray and we'll come over here and pick the center of, this gets a little hard because we want the center of this line here. Can you see I need to have my mouse hovering over the line, and we can come up like so. So there's a guide, if you like, so we can grab this lot, and actually we don't want hold the shift key down, and that gets rid of that selection, and we can then move slightly to the right, and we can go move that group perpendicular to there. So now we have 3 pavers on either side of a centrally placed construction line. Now we want 1, 2, 3, 4, so we can take that group and copy in the same way. From there it'll click up the 700, 3 and 4, and there's our group of pavers. So if we wanted to, we could select the paver, edit it, and rolling the mouse away from me, I shrink the design a little, I could pick that rectangle and make its colour. I could pick a colour, let's make it something like that, and we can say it's filled, and then we can close the block editor. Whoops, what has gone wrong with that? Oh, of course nothing has gone wrong with it. What has happened is each one of those has been plonked in to give us a solid lot of colours. We don't have a gap. Well, we can easily fix that by right click, edit the block, pick it, and we can say we need a colour, a border colour, and let's make that border colour a darker colour so that it stands out. And now close the block editor, and what we need, well, what we will do is change our view from the background colour of white to red. And what didn't I do correctly? Let me edit this again, edit the block. I think I need to send that, I'm just checking, has a border. Yes, it does. Now we should be right. Now we come in and we've got our group in. Now there's a pond with a platform bridge over it. Well, the next step might well be to draw the platform bridge in, and so I make a plank, if you like, a block of that, rather like we did for the paving brick, 950 by 290, and if I go into drafting settings, I've got a 320 offset this time. What that'll do is leave us the little gap between the boards, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we'll copy, and you should be able to see it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 12. That should give us the bridge over our pond. Maybe one more. And now we want to put in the pond itself, and that's drawn with what's called a flexible line or a poly line. I'll put a guide in and I'll start that 1, 2, 3, 4 areas in here. So I'm going to have a line across and then perpendicular to the boundary. At this stage I'd probably exit and go back into drafting settings and turn the distance step off. So that line there is really a guide. So to draw a pond like we see here, we use a flexible line called a poly line, and I'll just simply go, in this case, because we've drawn the shape on the mud map, let's follow that same, roughly that same shape, like so. And around it comes, and it's going to go across and under here. No, it's not. I can right click and undo that little step there and undo again, and we'd probably come under the bridge and then up to that point and then right click and close it. And there's our pond. We can apply curve fitting if we want, and let's do it. And there's some curve fitting for the pond, and we can pick a colour for it. Let's pick some sort of what's called a true colour. We'll pick some sort of blue that's going to work for us as a pond. Maybe it's a darker one, and we'll OK that, and then we say it's going to be filled, and there's our pond. And I'll just move that now. I've picked it, right click and move, and I'll move it roughly into position like so, and we'll select it and use a tool over here on the tool drop down to send it to the back. So our design is taking shape, and I'm sure you would agree it would be relatively easy to continue on extending these lines. Let me just illustrate. If I start a line, I can pick it up here, I can go a short distance away and come up to, say, about here. That, can you see the length is being measured? So I could set that at 1600, then I can go at an angle of 45. You might be able to see that the line automatically draws at 45 degrees, and I could do another line which would pick up here, and we could draw it up like so and come off again at that 45 degree angle. That might mean that we're a little too wide, so let's bring this one down, something like that. Line again using snap and grabbing the end point. It's very easy to draw at an angle, and then I can continue that line on again at, I want an angle of 135 in that direction. We come just about to there. So our design is taking shape. There's going to be some more paving in this area. It is 3 by 3, so it's, we could actually say take these three here and copy those as a group, pop it down around here, and then grab that group and rotate it, and we could rotate at that point there 45. So there's the group of pavers sitting like so. We need to extend this line to something like that, and then another line picking up like that across here at that same 45 degree angle, and now I can come in there and modify and trim using that as a cutting edge, and that has taken that one off. So we've got our walkway. This will all be compacted granitic paving. There's the pond. We've got the walkway going through. We haven't yet drawn the pergola over the top. You might be able to find a pergola in the library details. Pergola. Whoops. There is a folder of pergola. There's one 6x8 and a narrow space pergola. Don't think any of those are quite suitable yet for what we want here, but you could bring them in and modify them a little. But I'd just like then to demonstrate how you would dress this area up. That would happen with library, plants, and we could pick any symbol from this group, and you can see I'm scrolling down through all of the symbols that here, and there's over 100 in that normal group, and we really want something around that 40 range. So let's open it up and insert it into the drawing. And these come in a canopy diameter of 1 metre, and for concept drawings you would just do mass planting. So I would say copy and put a couple of copies of that one in, and then another one here, and you just pick and right click and say I'm going to scale that one, click in the middle and scale it out. So we have a group of planting in that area. Maybe this is some bushy sort of planting there, so that we could go to the library again and maybe scroll right down towards the end and see if we can find something that is bushy and coloured. That one would do. Remembering that this is just a concept drawing, and so we pop that one in there, and it's not showing terribly clearly, is it? There we are. Now we're right. Let's copy that a couple of times. You probably want to bring in some rushes, and they're also available. And there's clearly some planting of riparian symbols in and around that area. Perhaps the last thing to show you is to put some paving, some granitic sort of compacted paving underneath the pavers, and that's done by drawing a polyline. You don't have to be terribly fussy about this. You just click in here and even come down through there and then across and up. So I'm just tracing the sort of area that you might want to have some planting, planting some crushed paving, and we'll leave a little bit of zone for some more planting of some climbers on that fence. So we'll say it's closed, and then we could say hatch it. So modify, draw, hatch, and we're going to hatch with some solid hatching, and I'm going to pick the entity, which is the polyline, and we'll say OK, and that hatches it, and all we do is change its colour to something like that soft, maybe it's a bit too green, isn't it? We want a browner colour, so we can pick, say, something just gives a bit of colour, and I'll OK that and use tools and send to the back, and our polyline at this stage can now be removed because we've got some granitic sort of fill paving there. Now the steps running across are coloured, so you just pick your symbol and again colour it. Let's imagine that they're a bleached sort of colour, and we'll have one of these colours like so, and again we learnt to have a border, and the border colour 250, and we need a fill and close it, and automatically the board over the pond now shows. So I hope that gives you some idea that we can construct a plan rather like the one that you see here with good accuracy. What is lacking in my view now is a bit more of a feel for for a concept, and to that you might well want to change and go to a library and go to plants and compound or groups, and we might want to use sketchy metric symbols, and we'll bring these into the drawing. So it's a whole group of symbols are going to come into this drawing environment now, and I'll pop them over the side there, and we can, it's called explode, we can explode those. Now any of those symbols can be used, so we could drag this group into position over here and then rotate them to put them along that fence, bring a couple of this symbol in here, scale it and change it and size it like so. Maybe there's some colour in this zone here. You need some spiky riparian plants, so we can copy that and put it along the edge of the pond, but we can scale it not up this time but down and pop it like so. Now it's growing along the edge of the pond. So I hope you can see quite quickly we can give it a bit of more of a hand-drawn look as we work. Well, I hope you can see I've added a little more to the design, included the pergola and so on, but now it's ready. I want to put this design into a layout sheet with an appropriate logo on it. So let's do that. The simplest approach is just to grab what we've been doing and right click and copy that to the clipboard, start a brand new drawing, file and new, and if I start a brand new drawing using a Design Studio template, as I've picked up here, and I can then, it's a template which has got a whole lot of information on it, a design checklist, and it's got some information about hatches and some lines for drainage and so on, but it's all set so that if I paste from the clipboard this design and pop it here, it's already set. If I go now to A3 Portrait, and you can see a logo is in place, the information on the site location, and all I need to do is double click in here and then just position the view that I want in that, using that magenta box, and then display it on the layout, so you can see we're heading in the right direction. Well, to print the design, it's just a matter of going File and Print, select your printer. What I've chosen here is a PDF writer. I've chosen the paper size that is appropriate. We're picking paper area. We could change to A3 in portrait view and fit the paper. We can do a little preview. We're going to print everything in that area and repeat the print, and we'll go OK, and that will write off a PDF file. It'll be called gCADPlus drawing, so let's put it on the desktop. There may already be one there, and we may get a message to overwrite it. gCADPlus drawing is here, and we'll go Control L so we can see the whole design. So there it is, the living room, the house here, the paving, our walkway across, dog leg to the right, hammock hanging between the studio and the pergola. Probably need to thicken the poles on the pergola, but we have a logo incorporated into the design, and there we are. That's a 25-minute lesson on converting a hand-drawn design into a gCADPlus landscape design.